Welcome to Basic Editing with Benjamin DeHaven Photography. This is an image I took up at Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge last week. As you can see, we have two images, a light image and a dark image. We take it on a tripod, so the only movement is in the clouds. So in order to stack these in Photoshop, first we have to get them into the same document. So we would choose the light copy, click the Move tool, drag up to the other document, hold the Shift key down, and let go. And now we have a perfectly lined up pair of images. So now we can begin the blending process. So first things first, we're going to create a mask with the mask tool here on the light copy. And then we're going to choose our paintbrush tool, and we're going to paint out whatever we want. In this case, we're going to be painting the dark layer into the light layer. So we just go over what we want to be dark. This is a very simple way to do this. There's many ways to blend, but this is the simplest. So we don't have to be perfect, just don't get too much. Right through there, and then we'll get a little bit here in the reflection. Okay, and now that looks terrible, but we expect that. So now we're going to go up in our Properties tab in the Masks, and we're going to feather it. And we're just going to feather it all the way up to 1,000 pixels. And what we're looking at now is a good representation of the scene. We can change the opacity if we want to, but in this case, I think the opacity is good at 100%. It looks natural. So we're going to select our two layers, and we're going to click our layer menu, and we are going to convert to Smart Object, and that'll take the two layers and convert them into one, which is what we want to work with. Don't do this until you're happy with how the blend looks. Okay, now we have one layer, and it's a smart object. We always want to work with smart objects, and we want to work non-destructively. So what we can do now is go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and this brings up the Camera Raw dialog, and we'll bring up the exposure a little bit. I like more contrast. I'm going to bring in a little bit more sunset color. A little bit less sunset color. Rise the clarity slider, vibrance slider, saturation slider, all to taste, but make sure it looks natural, or at least if that's what you're going for, make sure it looks natural. And we're going to raise the shadows a little bit in the grasses, get a little bit brighter. And then we click OK. Okay, at this point, I like to stay at a 4:6 ratio, which was what we're going to stay for this, but I was slightly off center. I was standing in the reeds and didn't really level my camera too well. So we'll level that like so. Bring the corners in just a bit so it doesn't overlap at all, and go into the empty canvas. Accept that. Okay. Now let's sharpen the image. It doesn't really need sharpening, but I like to sharpen everything. I use Smart Sharpen, and I use about 45% with a radius of 3.5% is good, just to sharpen things up a little bit. Now we go down to our Yin Yang tool, bring up a Levels layer, and play around with the gamma channel just till we're happy with the results. I'm pretty happy with the way it looked, so I'm just going to lower the gamma just a touch. Actually, I'm going to raise it just a touch, 1.06. Hide that. Now I'd like to add a vignette to it, and the simplest way to add a vignette is the Yin Yang tool, opens up a curves level, or any curves adjustment layer, or any adjustment layer really. Change the blending mode to multiply, and you see it gets way too dark, but we have a mask here. So we get our paintbrush, and we paint in the light part of our document exactly where we want the vignette to be, and then we finish coloring that in. Okay, and again we click on the mask, double click on the mask, and it takes us to the feather dialog, and we're going to feather that out. In this case, we're going to feather until it doesn't look like a circle anymore, and you can't really tell where it was. So around 400 for this image. And then we change the opacity. Let's move that out of the way. Change the opacity of the layer to control the strength. So we take it all the way down, there's no vignette. Bring it up a little bit, and there's a vignette. And I would put this one right around 65% or so. And you can see that really just helps center the eye in the image. Now I like the Orton Effect, and we're going to add an Orton Effect to this picture. I'm going to highlight the base layer, like so. You can Alt, Control, Shift, E, and what you're doing is you're stamping the image. You're making a copy of the image as it is, with all the layer adjustments. Drag that to the top, and you can see there's no change when we make that layer invisible because it is a copy of exactly what you're working on. So we're going to make this, right-click it, make it a smart object so we can work on it. Go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. The first step of the Orton Effect is to brighten the image. So we're going to raise the exposure by about 2 stops and hit OK. Then we're going to go to the Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and blur it about, let's shoot for 100 for this image. Play around with it to taste. Okay, and that's our Orton Effect. We reduced the opacity by quite a lot. Just add it just in a little bit, just to give it a little bit of an ethereal feel. And that is our image. So, thank you very much, and I will see you next time.